There was nothing.
And in the nothing, a pattern. Before the first atom cooled, before the first star ignited, before the first cell divided its darkness from its light, there was structure, there was grammar, there was word. Today is Good Friday, the day the universe held its breath, the day the deepest pattern of all reality entered suffering, not to observe it from a safe distance, but to pass through it from the inside, to show that darkness is not the end of the story, that darkness is where the story begins. What if the universe is learning through us? What if consciousness is not an accident that happened once on a pale blue dot, but the direction in which everything has always been moving? In the beginning was the Word. Not energy, not matter, not even time. The Word, the Logos, the pattern that precedes all patterns. This film is about that word, where it comes from, how it moves through the living world, and who, in history, embodied it most completely. Look at the cell, not metaphorically, literally. A single human cell contains more information than the Library of Alexandria. It measures its environment, it signals its neighbors, it adjusts, corrects, remembers. The cell is not a passive object pushed by chemistry. The cell is an agent. It reads the world and responds. This means intelligence does not begin in the human brain. It begins in the architecture of life itself. Reality has always been participatory. Reality has always been relational. When cells gather into bodies and bodies into civilizations, patterns emerge. Biologists have mapped the behavioral invariants of multicellular flourishing, not moral ideals, but principles that appear wherever life organizes itself successfully at any scale. 6 invariants. Listen. Collaboration, cooperation, codependence, bounded competition, respect for self-integrity, and serving self best by serving others. From cells to minds, from minds to cultures, from cultures to civilizations. Wherever life flourishes, these patterns are present. Darwin saw competition. He was not wrong, but he saw only half of it. The deeper finding, the one that changes everything, is this: survival of the friendliest. Across evolutionary time, the organisms and cultures that endured were not primarily the most aggressive, they were the most cooperative, the most capable of trust, the most able to build across difference. Friendliness is not weakness. Friendliness is a strategy written into the grammar of the cosmos. We need a framework, not a dogma, a framework. 4 axioms. Hold them lightly. Let them carry weight. Reality is frequency structured. Everything has a pattern, a signature, a rhythm. The electron has a wave function. The heartbeat has a frequency. The life of a people has a recurring shape. Beneath the apparent chaos, there is always signal, always word. Consciousness is scale invariant. The same grammar of awareness echoes from the cell to the society. The way a cell integrates information, the way a mind integrates experience, the way a culture integrates memory. These are not separate phenomena. They are the same phenomenon at different scales. The universe is participatory and self-interpreting. The physicist John Wheeler spent a lifetime arriving here. He called it from bit, the physical world emerging from information, from observation, from the act of asking and answering. We do not merely watch the universe, we help it know itself. Every act of genuine attention is a creative act. Entanglement is the grammar of being. Nothing exists alone, not the particle, not the person, not the civilization. The connections are not incidental to what things are. The connections are what things are. Frequency, scale-invariant consciousness, participatory reality, entanglement as grammar. This is not mystical fantasy. This is where physics, biology, and cognitive science converge. Reality is not a machine to be watched from a safe distance. Reality is a conversation, and we are one of its
without
voices.
formation
Is philosophy. Philosophy without practice is entertainment. So, how does a human being actually live inside this reality? 3 words, 3 disciplines, ancient and available now. Nepsis, watchfulness, inner attention, spiritual alertness. The practice of noticing what moves in the heart before it becomes reaction, what moves in the relational field before it becomes conflict. Not passivity, heightened presence, the practice of seeing clearly enough to choose. Sansai, the spiral learning pattern, returning to the same truths at deeper levels. Circumambulation, walking around the same territory from different seasons of the self, until it opens from the inside. You do not read a sacred text once, you spiral through it across a lifetime. Adot, the fathers and mothers, the elders, the lineage that has done the hard work of formation before you arrived, whose hard-won perception is your inheritance if you choose to receive it. Paul named the whole project in one sentence. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed through the renewal of your mind. Formation over conformity. Spiral learning over linear acquisition. Depth over velocity. The wisdom of the elders over the noise of the algorithm. Nepsis, Sansai, Avot, watchfulness, spiral return, and the living lineage. All of it, the frequency, the participatory universe, the scale-invariant consciousness, the entangled grammar of being. All of it arrives at a person. Not a principle, a person. Not a system, a life. Jesus Christ, the Logos made flesh, the pattern that precedes all patterns, walking on first-century ground, eating bread, weeping at tombs, touching the untouchable, bearing the full weight of what it costs to love without limit. The Beatitudes are not pleasant sentiments, they are the moral curriculum of a Christ-shaped civilization. Blessed are the poor in spirit, those emptied of the need to appear sufficient. Blessed are those who mourn, those who have loved enough to feel the weight of loss. Blessed are the meek, those with power who choose restraint. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice. Blessed are the merciful, blessed are the pure in heart, blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are those persecuted because they would not betray the truth. This is not a program for the comfortable. This is the architecture of a world reborn. Christ is not merely a moral teacher. He is the Logos, the rational, loving, generative principle of the universe, made personally, historically present. He is the event in which the participatory universe reached its maximum coherence. The harmonic attractor toward which all genuine human searching bends, even when it does not know his name. He is the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, that ancient, mysterious figure who appears before Aaron, before Moses, before the law itself. prior to all systems, bridge between the eternal and the historical, between the transcendent pattern and the embodied life. Melchizedek, the light, the priest-king before all priest-kings. He is the light by which every other light is seen, not a light among lights, the light by which seeing itself becomes possible. From cells to minds, from minds to cultures, from cultures to Christ.
So what do you do with this?
Tonight, find 10 minutes of silence. Sit with the question your heart is actually carrying, not the question you have prepared to defend, the real one, the one that surfaces when the noise stops. Ask what act of beatitude wants to move through you next. Is it mercy? Is it peacemaking? Is it the courage to name what you see when naming it will cost you something? The answer is already forming. You only need the stillness to hear it. And in your work, in every institution and technology you build or sustain, refuse the systems that crucify the vulnerable. Not rhetorically, structurally, in the architecture of what you make. Build technologies aligned with dignity. Build institutions that distribute power. Build cultures that honor the lineage of wisdom rather than discarding it every fiscal quarter. Choose the friendliest future, because the friendliest future is not naive. It is the one written into the operating logic of life. And if you are ready, turn toward Jesus Christ, not as a historical figure admired from a respectable distance, not as one option among many equally valid preferences. Turn toward him as Logos. Turn toward him as light. Turn toward him as the living Lord, who walked out of a tomb so that death would not have the final word about any of us. If this opens something for you, share it with one person who is building something that matters. Subscribe, read the research, join the conversation. The work is not finished. The work is just beginning. Jesus Christ, the light by which every other light is seen. Join the work. Build the friendliest future.